So like, imagine this. You're daydreaming, about opening a bakery.
Mm-hmm.
The smell of fresh bread, the joy of like creating all those delicious treats,
Yeah.
the whole vibe, but then
Right.
reality uh, sets in.
Yeah.
Finding that perfect location, perfecting the recipes,
Yeah.
just the sheer mountain of work that it takes to get started.
Totally.
How do you bridge that gap
Yep.
between the dream and,
Yeah.
actually kneading the dough?
That's where the magic of future planning comes in.
Uh,
It's like having a blueprint for your bakery,
Okay.
but instead of walls and ovens, we're talking about actionable steps to bring that dream to life.
So it's less about, I want to open a bakery someday, and more about, here's exactly how I'm going to make it happen.
Exactly. And that shift in mindset can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
Think of ambition as the fire in your belly,
Okay.
the why that fuels your dream.
Got it.
Future plans are the roadmap, the step-by-step guide that turns that burning desire into tangible actions.
Okay. That makes sense. But I have to admit, one of my biggest struggles is setting realistic goals.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to get carried away with the initial excitement and set these massive, almost impossible targets.
Right.
Then surprise, surprise, I get discouraged when I inevitably hit a wall.
That's a common trap.
Yeah.
We get so caught up in the big picture that we forget about the importance of those smaller foundational steps. It's like trying to build a skyscraper without laying a proper foundation. You're setting yourself up for disaster.
Yeah, that's a recipe for a leaning tower of disappointment for sure.
Definitely.
So let's say my ambition is to become fluent in Italian.
Okay.
Instead of saying I'm going to be fluent in 6 months,
Yeah.
what's a more realistic approach?
Instead of focusing on the grand finale,
Yeah.
break it down into smaller, more digestible bites.
Okay.
Maybe you start with an online language course, find a language exchange partner,
Uh-huh.
and set a goal to have your first basic conversation in Italian within a month.
Okay, so it's all about creating those mini milestones, those little victories
Yes.
that keep you motivated and moving forward.
Exactly. And to make those milestones even more effective, we can use the SMART goals framework.
Okay.
This means making sure each goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
I've heard of SMART goals, but honestly, sometimes those acronyms just make my eyes glaze over.
Sure.
Can you break it down for us in a way that actually makes sense?
Absolutely. Let's stick with your Italian fluency ambition.
Okay.
Instead of a vague goal like learn Italian, a SMART goal would be something like,
Okay.
by a specific date, I will be able to hold a 5-minute conversation in Italian about my hobbies and interests,
Uh-huh.
using vocabulary and grammar from the online course I'm taking.
Got it.
See how that's much more specific, measurable, and time-bound.
Wow, yeah, that's a world of difference. It's like going from a blurry map to a GPS with turn-by-turn directions.
Exactly.
But even with the best roadmap, life has a way of throwing curveballs.
Mm-hmm.
How do we stay motivated and on track when those inevitable obstacles pop up?
That's where connecting to the why behind your ambition becomes crucial.
Okay.
When you encounter a setback,
Yeah.
whether it's a financial strain, a lack of time, or just plain old procrastination.
Right.
Remember why this goal matters to you. Visualize the positive impact achieving it will have on your life.
So it's like having a mental image of yourself ordering a cappuccino in perfect Italian.
Yes.
Feeling that sense of accomplishment and pride, that's definitely motivating.
Exactly.
But what if along the way I realize my initial plan isn't working, or maybe my priorities have shifted?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Future plans are not set in stone. Flexibility is key.
Okay.
If you discover a new language learning method that resonates more with you, or your life circumstances change,
Right.
don't be afraid to adjust your roadmap.
So it's not about being rigid, it's about being adaptable and open to course correcting along the way.
Exactly.
Okay, that takes some of the pressure off, for sure.
And remember, this is about the journey, not just the destination. It's about embracing the process of learning, growing, and evolving as you move towards your ambition.
That's such a great point. And it reminds me that ambitions themselves can change and evolve throughout life, right?
Absolutely.
What might feel all-consuming in your 20s could look completely different in your 40s or even 60s.
Think of it like this.
Yeah.
A teenager might be laser focused on getting into their dream college. Someone in their 30s might be passionate about launching their own business
Right.
or starting a family.
Okay.
And someone in their 50s might be exploring a new career path or finally learning to play that instrument they've always dreamed of.
I love that it's never too late to pursue something you're passionate about.
Definitely not.
No matter your age or stage in life,
Exactly.
it's all about tapping into that inner drive and figuring out how to make it happen.
I completely agree.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment to dive even deeper.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive on ambitions and future plans. It's been great exploring the foundations of setting those goals and getting ready to launch.
It has. In part one, we talked about defining our why, breaking goals into bite-sized pieces, and staying flexible when things get messy. Now I'm really curious to dig into the how. What can we actually do to make those ambitions a reality?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? We've got the dream, we've got the motivation, but how do we actually translate that into action?
That's where the power of action plans comes in. Think of it like planning an epic road trip. You wouldn't just hop in the car and start driving without a map or a destination in mind.
Right?
Definitely.
Definitely not. I'd be hopelessly lost, ending up somewhere in the middle of nowhere with no snacks and a bad playlist.
Exactly. An action plan is like that roadmap for your ambition. It guides you, helps you anticipate those metaphorical potholes, and keeps you focused on the destination.
Okay, I'm sold on the action plan idea, but how do we actually create one? Where do we even begin?
Well, let's go back to that SMART goal we talked about earlier. Remember, it needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Let's say your ambition is to write a screenplay. Your SMART goal might be to complete a 120-page first draft within the next year.
Okay, so we have our destination, a finished screenplay in 1 year. Now what?
Now we break that ambitious journey down into manageable pit stops. Ask yourself, what specific tasks will get me to this goal? For our screenplay example, your action plan might involve researching similar films and identifying successful story structures, creating detailed character profiles and backstories, setting a weekly page target, and scheduling dedicated writing time, joining a screenwriting group for feedback and support.
Wow, that sounds so much more manageable than staring at a blank page and feeling overwhelmed by the enormity of writing a whole screenplay.
Absolutely. It's like conquering a challenging hike by focusing on one step at a time, enjoying the scenery along the way. But let's be real, sometimes motivation dips and distractions are just a click away. How do we stay focused and committed to our action plans?
Oh, you're speaking my language. I'm the queen of starting projects with gusto and then fizzling out halfway through. What's the secret sauce to staying on track?
Accountability is a game changer. Having someone or something to hold you responsible can provide that extra push we all need sometimes.
So like finding a writing buddy who's also working on a screenplay, and you can swap pages and cheer each other on.
Exactly. It could be a friend, a mentor, a coach, or even an online community of like-minded creatives. Sharing your ambition with others and knowing they're rooting for you can make all the difference.
That makes so much sense. It's like having a built-in support system to celebrate those wins, offer encouragement when things get tough, and maybe even provide a gentle nudge when procrastination starts creeping in.
Absolutely. And remember, sometimes even with the best laid plans, we encounter those unexpected detours. How we handle those setbacks is what truly defines our journey. That's where resilience comes in.
Resilience. It sounds like that superpower we all wish we had, especially when facing those moments of doubt or discouragement. How do we build that mental muscle?
One powerful technique is reframing challenges as opportunities for growth. Instead of viewing setbacks as failures, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this make my screenplay even stronger?
So it's like turning those plot twists in our own lives into valuable lessons that ultimately shape the direction of our story.
Exactly. Each obstacle you overcome adds depth and richness to your experience. It's like those unexpected plot twists in a movie. They keep us on the edge of our seats and ultimately lead to a more compelling narrative.
I love that analogy.
Mhm.
It's so true. Those unexpected challenges often lead to the most interesting and rewarding parts of the journey. But let's be honest, sometimes procrastination is the real villain of our story. Any tips for battling that urge to put things off?
Procrastination is a universal struggle. One strategy is breaking down tasks into even smaller, more digestible bites. Remember that feeling of overwhelm we talked about? If the thought of writing 5 pages today feels daunting, tell yourself, I'm just going to write for 30 minutes and see what happens.
That's such a good point. Sometimes just getting started is the biggest hurdle. And often, once you get into the flow, you end up accomplishing way more than you initially planned. What else can help us conquer the procrastination monster?
Creating a dedicated workspace free from distractions can be a game changer. Think about it. Are you more likely to write those screenplay pages while lounging on the couch with Netflix calling your name, or in a quiet, organized space dedicated to your craft?
Oh, definitely, the dedicated workspace. I know I get sucked into the black hole of social media way too easily when I'm trying to work in a distracting environment.
Mm.
What else can we try to stay focused and productive?
Don't underestimate the power of rewarding yourself for accomplishing those tasks, even the small ones. It's like giving yourself a little pat on the back for staying committed to your action plan.
Rewards. Yes, I'm all about celebrating those wins, big or small. But what kind of rewards are we talking about? Should I be booking a weekend getaway every time I finish a scene in my screenplay?
Well, maybe not a vacation every time, but it's about finding those things that motivate and inspire you. It could be a relaxing bath, a delicious meal, a movie night with friends, or even just taking a break to enjoy your favorite hobby.
I love that. It's all about finding those little things that make the journey more enjoyable and rewarding. But what about those moments when we hit a creative wall or feel uncertain about the next step? How do we navigate those periods of doubt or confusion?
Sometimes the best thing to do when you feel stuck is to simply step back and reflect. Take a break from the intense writing and revisit your goals, your action plan, and the initial spark that ignited this ambition.
So it's like taking a pause in the middle of that epic road trip, checking the map, reassessing the route, and maybe even discovering some hidden gems along the way.
Exactly. Remember, achieving your ambition is not about rigidly following a predetermined path. It's about embracing the detours, the unexpected discoveries, and the moments of reflection that ultimately shape your unique journey.
This is all so insightful. I'm feeling much more equipped to not only create an action plan, but also navigate those inevitable challenges along the way. But before we wrap up part two, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are ready to put these strategies into action?
Here's the challenge. Identify one small, specific task related to your ambition that you can commit to completing today. Maybe it's outlining a scene for your screenplay, researching film festivals, or simply brainstorming character ideas. Remember, even the smallest action can create momentum and put me one step closer to that finished screenplay.
Welcome back to the final act of our deep dive on unlocking your ambitions. We've covered so much ground, from defining our why to crafting action plans and building resilience like Creative Warrior, but there's one crucial element we haven't explored yet.
You're right, and it's something that can make or break our journey mindset.
Mindset and action. Now you've really piqued my curiosity. We've touched on the idea of a growth mindset, but I have a feeling there's more to uncover here.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's all about understanding that powerful connection between our thoughts, our beliefs, and ultimately our actions. Our minds are incredibly influential. They can either be our biggest cheerleaders or our harshest critics.
So it's like having this internal dialogue constantly running in the background, shaping our perceptions and influencing the choices we make along the way.
Precisely. And if that dialogue is filled with self-doubt, fear of failure, or those sneaky limiting beliefs, it can sabotage our efforts before we even get started.
Oh, I've been there. It's like having a little voice whispering, "You're not good enough," or "What if you fail?" How do we silence that inner critic and turn up the volume on those positive, empowering thoughts?
One powerful technique is practicing self-affirmations. These are positive statements that challenge those negative thoughts and reinforce beliefs that support our ambitions. It's like giving our minds a pep talk, reminding ourselves of our strengths and capabilities.
Self-affirmations. Okay, I'm intrigued. What would those sound like in practice? Give me an example.
Let's say you're working on that screenplay, but you're feeling overwhelmed by the process. A helpful self-affirmation could be, I'm a creative and capable storyteller. I have a unique voice, and I'm committed to bringing my vision to life.
So it's about consciously choosing to focus on what we can do, what we're good at, rather than letting those doubts and fears take center stage.
Exactly. By consistently repeating these positive affirmations, we start to rewire our brains, creating new neural pathways that support our ambitions. It's like training our minds to believe in ourselves and our ability to achieve what we set out to do.
It's blowing my mind. It's like we're tapping into the power of our own thoughts to shape our reality. But what about those inevitable moments when we face setbacks? Those times when we make mistakes or things don't go according to plan. How do we maintain that positive mindset when the going gets tough?
That's where self-compassion comes in. It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a close friend going through a similar experience. Instead of beating ourselves up over a mistake or a setback, we offer ourselves words of encouragement and support.
That makes so much sense. But I think a lot of us, myself included, are much harder on ourselves than we would ever be on a friend. It's like
Yeah.
we have this inner critic that's always ready to pounce on any perceived failure.
It's a common struggle, but remember, self-compassion is not about making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It's about recognizing that we're human, we're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. It's about giving ourselves permission to learn and grow from those experiences.
This is such a powerful shift in perspective. It's
Yeah.
like we're giving ourselves the grace to be imperfect, to stumble along the way, and to keep moving forward with a sense of kindness and understanding towards ourselves.
Precisely. And when we cultivate that sense of self-compassion, we create a more supportive and nurturing inner environment, which allows our creativity to flourish and our ambitions to take flight.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I'm
Yeah.
starting to see how cultivating a positive mindset and embracing self-compassion can be absolute game changers when it comes to achieving those big dreams.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up our deep dive into unlocking your ambitions, remember this: you are capable of achieving incredible things. Believe in yourself, embrace the journey, and never stop pursuing those dreams that set your soul on fire.
Beautifully said so to our amazing listeners out there. Remember to nurture that positive mindset, practice self-compassion, and never, ever underestimate the power of your own potential. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.